How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. Time for another key comic flip through. This time we're going to go through Fugitoid issue number 1. Now, according to TMNTpedia, we have Fugitoid is a fugitive android, a pre-TMNT Mirage Studio character who later becomes an integral part of the Turtles universe and befriends them. He was initially Professor Honeycutt, a scientist from another world whose mind had been trapped inside his own creation, Sal. So we're going to get into that a little bit more here. I love this wraparound cover from the guys here, also autographed by Kevin Eastman. So I absolutely love this cover right here. Look at that when you get to actually open it up. So let's get into this one. Really amazing artwork, pretty simple story, but a lot of cool Easter eggs and things like that are in this issue. Let's get into it right now. So we have Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird on here as well. Publication date of 1985 by Mirage Studios. So we get our Professor Honeycutt here. He's actually tampering, trying to build some kind of a mind device. He's calling it the Mentawave helmet. And so it's supposed to be this device that you can transport physical objects from one place to the other, or move things around with like a telepathy type of a thing. And so he's been working on this helmet for quite some time, working on this prototype right here, and he's making it for the military, or they're contracted him to make that, trying to fund a lot of his research, and we're going to see a little bit more of that play through here very soon. Of course, we have Fugitoid over here in the background. We're going to get more into him as well, but this is setting up the scene about what this helmet is and who our professor is at this moment. So after our introduction to our main characters, we're going to get a little bit more dialogue, and we're going to introduce the general right here who's working with Professor Honeycutt, and he's not too happy about the results so far. It's taking a long time to get this prototype up and working. Again, his research is being funded. It's been a few years now. They still haven't gotten a prototype yet, and they're really discouraged about this right now, kind of saying, you need to figure this out or else kind of a thing. Of course, him being a scientist himself, he realizes that, it's going to take time to figure this out. They shouldn't be rushing and everything like that. And so he's like, man, I wish I could just be a mindless robot worker over there like Sal, because he has nothing to worry about. He's programmed to do whatever he needs to do. And I've had that kind of feeling myself before too. When in a high-stress job, in a profession that demands a whole lot, sometimes you just admire the more straightforward jobs out there. And so he's definitely experiencing that right now, kind of looking over at Sal. So he wants to give it one more attempt over here. He's got this measuring stick right here, and he's got this, I don't know, presumably this pot with some plants in it from this world, and he's going to try to use his telepathy powers in a way to actually move this object, and he really does, which is kind of the first real result that he has right here. So he yells "Eureka!" as one does, and he's really excited about all that. But there's this really interesting part right here, because apparently he strains so hard that there's some kind of a impulse that goes through the headset, and he can actually hear Sal over here talking to himself. He can read his thoughts and stuff like that, which is something that he didn't really anticipate. So he realizes he's in some kind of a distress, and so Dr. Honeycutt goes over to see what Sal's doing, and he can again hear his thoughts, which is a new development when using this headset. So it's kind of cool. Typically when you have a page turn like this and you have this big dramatic panel, my eyes immediately go to this, and so it did when I read this one for the first time. So you have to force yourself to come back over here to build up to this moment. So I would have preferred this to be on the page turn and not just on this second page right here, but it is what it is. And of course, we're realizing again what's going on right here. He goes, "It's fantastic, Sal. I hear both your voice and your thoughts. It's like we're conversing in stereo." So again, this is a new development for his headset. Looks like Sal here got caught up in some underground cables and things like that, and maybe he injured his leg, and so Dr. Honeycutt's going over here to help him get out of harm's way, and this electrical storm is coming through, and it's building and building, getting worse as they're trying to get back to shelter. And of course they get struck by lightning right here, and we get to see the repercussions of that here very soon. And this is the end of chapter 1. Really cool artwork in here, of course, with that black and white contrast, a little bit of spatter over here as well. Great hatching and great line work, and so it really does sell the drama of the scene right here. Totally love that, and the lightning strikes and everything. So beginning over in chapter 2, everything is dark, everything is raining. We're still in the middle of this electrical storm, and we have this creature crawling back to the shelter, yelling, "Sal, where are you, buddy?" So presumably Dr. Honeycutt is crawling back into safety. Of course, we see the silhouette of the character a little bit before he realizes what has happened here. And we get this awesome spiral zipatone in the background. That's a really cool effect because it's supposed to be this confusing moment or this delusional, confusing kind of a revelation right here. So that zipatone in the back, that background really works very, very effectively, I think, in here. Of course, initial reactions are not great. He actually starts flipping out, saying, "The Menta Wave helmet, I was wearing it when the lightning struck, and I made telepathic contact with Sal. The overload, the power surge, basically his mind flipped over into Sal's body. So Professor Honeycutt is no more, and now all we have is Sal, who we're going to refer to soon as the Fugitoid." So we're coming off of that revelation right here. Of course, the military, we saw them a couple of pages ago saying that they wanted some results. They're going to go visit him and pay and see what kind of progress he has made. They have now landed, and they've come across a body. It's basically a skeleton right here, completely disassembled. One of the guards over here is saying the body looks like blaster burns. And of course, we have our captain or general right here. "Oh my God, it's Honeycutt. I can't believe that." And of course, they see the tracks from Sal or Fugitoid leading in another direction. And he's trying to still figure out what exactly is going on. Another great example of the zipatone in the background. But he actually hears these military people coming over to get him. And they think that he actually went rogue. And this is just a worker robot who went rogue and killed Professor Honeycutt. And he's actually on the run. So of course, they start shooting at him. And he even says here, these guys shoot first and ask questions later. I got to get out of here. And of course, our general, who goes by Blank, he is offering 100 credits to the first person that brings that robot down. So of course, he's super upset because the professor has died and he's holds the key to this technology that was going to change everything and, essentially make their federation the supreme power in the universe. And so he's upset that this robot has done this, putting a bounty on him in the process. And so, of course, he ends up making an escape through the woods. So Sal is on the run. Sal with Honeycutt's mind is on the run, heading into the forest. This is the end of chapter 2. Another great shot right here. Lots of detail, takes up the entire page, which I think is cool. I didn't mention this before, but this comic right here is actually extra sized. To give you some sense of that extra size, I'm going to put another comic right here that came out recently so you can see the extra, 2.5 inches, another inch on the top part here as well. So we do get a little bit more real estate in this comic here compared to a standard size comic. So they really do make use of that exercise with panels like this. So it is pretty cool. Starting over in chapter 3, of course, we have our military hunting him down, going through the woods, yelling, "It's the killer robot, shoot it." So now they are on the hunt, chasing him down through the woods. He's saying, "Okay, you two go over there and try to find him. I'm going to go back to the base and, see if I can find any evidence or anything like that of what actually went on." And so we have our general scrambling through all the wreckage right here, and he comes across a recorded message because the professor actually recorded all of his experiments and everything like that. And he comes back to the recording that was made the night before when Sal found out that he had Honeycutt's mind transported inside of his body. And he actually comes to the realization here that hey, robots don't have any kind of rights. I can actually force him into, military or scientific labor forever now. And this is actually great because there's no human rights here to worry about. And so he can actually be forced into making the ultimate weapon for me, and no one can object because he has no rights at this point. So this is a pretty sinister revelation right here, but it's pretty interesting at the same time. We have our guards that went into the woods trying to find this rogue robot, this Fugitoid. They're getting a little worried. They're not worried, but they're getting worn out running through the woods. They didn't think their day was going to end up like this. And so they're kind of going back and forth about, they want to take a break and things like that if they get over the radio with their commander here. And he says, "You know what, never mind. We're not going to destroy, we're going to capture this robot." So now they're even more mad because now they have twice as hard of a job to accomplish right here, but they have to go forth and do what they're told. Fugitoid here, still on the run, comes across these interesting looking shells or rocks or whatever they might be. And again, this is another instance of those page flips because my eyes immediately go here and then I come back over here to catch back up. So another design choice that maybe should have been on the flip. But, Fugitoid had made some ground right now, made a little bit of distance between him and the military that is chasing him, stops for a minute, tries to inspect his leg because it was injured in the first part of the story when it was just Sal. These rocks are actually gigantic shells or something like that, and one of the huge crabs comes out right behind Fugitoid, scaring the crap out of him, and that's where we leave on the end of chapter number 3. So is this giant crab friend or foe? We're going to see over here in chapter number 4. Again, we have our patrollers tracking down Fugitoid. They actually come across these rocks as well, but they don't actually see him, and they can't figure out what's going on. They say that, hey, we have other technology we can use that we can bring back out here into the woods to try to track down Fugitoid, because, just trying to look for him with our eyes is just not very effective. Let's go get some more equipment, things like that. Let's take a break and everything, and let's get back out of here, and we'll just tell the general that we couldn't find him. So they actually make their way out of here, come to find out that our rock lifts back up into the air, and it was actually providing shelter for Fugitoid here, because these aliens here, these like crab creatures, they actually can read the minds of different beings around, and it sensed a very interesting thought pattern inside of this robot. Being a human mind inside of a robot body, they thought it was very strange, they said. Of course, he repeats, indeed it is. Our creature here telling Fugitoid, hey, maybe you should head to town. Maybe you should head to this junkyard where they won't be able to find you, and you need to kind of get out of here, because they're going to come back with more sophisticated technology to track you down, and it's going to be a lot harder to find you in a junkyard because you'll blend in with the other scrap metal and stuff like that. No offense, of course. And then Fugitoid agrees to that plan and actually leaves, saying, yes, I feel that we'll meet again in some form. So maybe a little foreshadowing. If we continue down this path, maybe we'll come across these creatures yet again. Meanwhile, our soldiers come back to the general over here, not exactly happy at the results. No one actually found where Fugitoid went, and so the general here is actually taking the shuttle back to headquarters, and he's going to send reinforcements to come to help aiding in finding this Fugitoid. And we get some interesting internal monologue over here from the general, because he's talking about the applications for this technology that the professor was building. It's like this instant transmission of material. So you just think about, you can transport a bomb right into the base of your enemy, and it actually refers to the Triceraton Republic, which is going to be a villain of sorts in the TMNT run, and of course we can explore that as we get down that line as well. But I think it's cool to see this first kind of Easter egg into a possible overlap in these two properties created by the same people in the same studio. That makes total sense. And we get some awesome layouts over here as well from the guys, just really showcasing their perspective shots and just this beautiful, clean line work that they're able to do. This general is very proud of himself and open a path of glory for me. So he's really in it for himself. Of course, that's the end of chapter number 4. Chapter number 5 starts off with Fugitoid going through the junkyard here, and I can probably assume there's Easter eggs all up in here. I would imagine, because Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, they were really into sci-fi, big Star Wars fans of Terminator and all this stuff, and so a lot of their inspiration comes from other pop culture references, like Jack Kirby stuff and everything. Of course, you can see some Kirby-esque stuff in here, and so I would not doubt that some of this stuff in here might be related to one of those influences. I can spot 2 or 3 different things that might be something, but then again, it just might be my mind, playing tricks on me as well. But he's going through the junkyard right now. Pretty cool vertical panelings here, and we did get some other threats identified down here. They're unknown at this moment, but they're tailing Fugitoid through this junkyard right now as he's traveling to this other city just to kind of find refuge or find help. I really love the way that he's drawn in this one vertical panel right here. Very, very clean lines and some spatter. It just looks really good. I'm not exactly sure how you can pull that off artistically, but man, it looks really cool how they actually did this. Now, of course, we're going to fast forward over here to the headquarters, and we have our General Blank right here talking to somebody else, some other soldier on the monitor, and we have a female character here that we're going to be introduced to in just a moment. And she's going to be playing a pretty big role here in the next few pages as she's talking to General Blank right here. He's basically yelling, very well, continue to search and report to me every hour. You've got to find this Fugitoid. She's extremely interested in what makes this robot so special, and so he actually confides in her and tells her that this information that this robot has could shift the entire balance of power in the known galaxy. So, I don't know if he's trying to, impress her at the same time, because why else would you share this kind of information? But I guess he's just kind of throwing around his power a little bit and saying hey, I got this thing I'm trying to work for. Isn't that really cool? And so I'm not exactly sure how she takes that information, but we do flash back to Fugitoid continuing his journey through the scrapyard over here, and these aliens that we saw on the previous page, those vertical panels, decide this is the time to go grab him. So they actually wrap him up and capture him, and these guys are basically slave traders for robots, and we're going to see exactly what that means coming up. Pretty weird looking guys over here too, a lot of influences. I swear that's kind of like Wolverine's helmet, back in the day, like when Wolverine was created. And so that's kind of reminiscent of that, even some of the shoulder pads and things like that. So every once in a while you can spot little references of like, hey, that looks like something else. And I could swear there's probably some other little Easter eggs in here. We're definitely going to see some more when we get these crowd shots, and we're gonna kind of break this down a little bit and see if you guys agree with me there. But chapter 6 starts off, he's actually being transported. He's bound up with some other robots, kind of like Star Wars New Hope style. You know, they capture a bunch of robots, take them through the desert, and then they sell them off to different farmers and things like that. That's essentially what's happening over here. This page over here is pretty interesting because there are some different alien characters that they show in here. Like we have a Klingon looking guy over here, looks like a little Spock dude. We have some other Star Wars looking creatures. If you go through, here's C-3PO for sure, right? And so, yeah, there's some little moments in this book where you're like, oh, well, there's an obvious reference. And I think I remember them talking to Ed and Jim on Cartoonist Kayfabe, maybe about this book, but they also were talking about some other books that they were doing. And they said that there were some obvious ripoffs of some of their influences when they're writing these books, and no one's really questioned them about it. But I'm wondering if this is the kind of stuff they were talking about. So it is pretty cool to see it. So they're unloading their, catches of the day, putting them up on stage. And here's our auctioneer over here. And I love this sign here. It says honest used robots. So I think that's a pretty funny sign over there. And so, of course, as we get into this bidding war, and he's actually a worker robot. That's kind of the type of robot that he is. And of course, all these different people are bidding for him. He gets sold to this human here for 3,100 credits. And this human's like, man, I hope you know how to wash windows, stuff like that. So it's interesting. The next panel down here, this is actually the girl that was talking to General Blank on the previous page, who he was kind of trying to impress, right? So now she has this valuable knowledge, which I suppose is used for a plot device over here, because she has secret government information right now, and she's kind of going to a seedy place in the town, and she's going down the alleyways and stuff, going into this bar, and she's talking to this Triceraton over here. And so we learn that this Triceraton is actually hiding out over here, and she's kind of an informant for them, and she has government secrets, and she's feeding them government secrets in exchange for this drug that's only found on his planet. And so she's kind of, making this exchange here, which is a pretty dark little story. And so she's kind of fed up with it. She's like, I can't do it. I can't betray my government and everything like that. And so he reminds her, if you don't, it'll be your death, and it's a pretty dramatic page turn right here. So, what other option does she have? Starting over in chapter number 7, we have our human that bought our Fugitoid just heading to their spaceship right now, or their craft. And he's realizing, he's like, hey, I got to get away from this guy because I'm going to get spotted by the police anytime now. So this guy has no idea what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the boot. So he actually picks him up, breaks his chains, picks him up and throws him into his own space pod. And he starts making a break for it. Our Triceraton got the information that he needed from the girl he met earlier, and of course now she's shooting up in the corner, and they're watching it on the video, and apparently she's going to overdose because I guess he gave her too big of a dose or something like that, or she can't handle that kind of a dose. And so he's now sitting with this ultimate knowledge of, hey, there's only 3 people in this world that know about this technology now, and she's overdosing right now. I have this knowledge, but also you have this knowledge too, this little helper that he's had while he's been hiding away. So of course he gets blasted as well. So now he has the ultimate knowledge of this technology existing, and that this Fugitoid is the thing that has this technology. So I need to hunt this thing down before anybody else is made aware of it, so I can save the day for my culture as well. So we have these 2 different generals. We have a Triceraton and a human one, both obsessed with power, both trying to find Fugitoid to utilize this technology to their means, with even him saying the universe will be ours. And so that's his motivation right now. We catch back up with Fugitoid though, still going through the marketplace, still going through the town, and here's Thor with his hammer right here, which is really interesting. So again, we get a couple more Easter eggs. So our Fugitoid, he's running through trying to escape some of the guards that have now found him. So here's our soldiers again. Hey, you, stop that robot. So he's actually running through town, hits a dead end. All right, that's far enough. Gets cornered by the military right here. And then all of a sudden we have our Turtles popping in. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles popping right in over here between Fugitoid and this army. This is a beautiful shot. Absolutely gorgeous. I like the fact that everything is well inked and lined, and the turtles are kind of fading in. It's a whole different art style for the turtles right here, and they are fading into the scene at this moment, and we got this beautiful 2-page spread, kind of from the perspective of the army right here, and it goes, what the hell? Call reinforcements. The Fugitoid just beamed in some muscle, and nobody can explain what the heck is going on. And it says, yow, what's going to happen now? Find out in TMNT number 5, on sale October 1st. So if you read TMNT issue number 4, the end of that issue, they actually get beamed out through some kind of beaming technology, and they actually show up right here in front of Fugitoid as he's about to be arrested and captured by this military. So what a great little crossover moment. That was really handled very well, I thought, and it was just such a cool little way to blend everything together. The rest of this is just advertisements for t-shirt iron-ons and miniature or metal miniatures of the turtles, things like that. And then of course we have our TMNT issue number 5 advertisement here, and we get a little pin-up of Fugitoid over here. So what is really cool is if you get TMNT issue number 5, you get to see the continuation of part of this as well, and then you have number 4, which led into this issue. So this issue and TMNT number 4 are happening at the exact same time, and then the turtles get transported out, and then they show up at the end of this book right here. So this is Fugitoid issue number 1 from Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was a great little introduction to the character and kind of set the stage for what the character is, why he's important, the different people that are after him, and then of course it brings in the collaboration with the turtles as well. So handled very well. I love this one. Let me know down below in the comments how you like this book, if you picked this one up on the shelf when it came out, and if you've been reading some of those other turtle books as well. Let me know down below in the comments. While you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted of future videos. See y'all in the comments.